Alrighty, so back to Boy X. This is my fourth time trying to record this chapter. Having a rough technology day. So page 34. Ash and Isabel stayed under the counter what felt like at least another half an hour, until their legs had gone to sleep and their backs were stiff before they moved. Thorne's smell lingered in Ash's nostrils, but Ash was sure about one thing. Thorne hadn't known they were there, and that meant his senses weren't working the way Ash's were. Whatever was happening to him, it wasn't happening to anyone else. "We have to get to this lab you mentioned," he said to Isabel. "Someone there will know what to do." But his mind was already starting to work against him. Dark thoughts reminded him what Pierce and Kane had been talking about before they left. Their plan was to disable all communications and all personnel. "They're dead," the voice whispered in his head. "Everybody's dead." They emerged from behind the counter and made their way through the gloom toward the stairwell. As they climbed to the first landing, the faint light from the lobby faded to nothing, and when they turned to the next flight of stairs, they saw only nerve-ending darkness. "There's no power anywhere?" Ash whispered. "No, like, emergency lights or something?" Isabel's dry throat clicked. "No say. I don't know. Maybe they switched it off." Ash felt the dread of knowing they had to go into the dark. "Don't suppose you got a flashlight or something?" "Not here. At my house, yes, but—" "Do you know the way to the lab, then? Can you get to it in the dark?" "I don't know. Yes. Maybe. Papa showed me the way. Once." "Maybe? I think I can." "I suppose that'll have to do." Ash climbed the first step, then stopped. "We better hold on to each other." "What if he's there?" Isabel asked. "That man. He can't see in the dark." But the voice floated down from the tower in Ash's head saying, "Maybe Thorne can see in the dark just fine. Maybe he's watching you right now." Isabel stepped up beside him and took his hand. Her skin was warm, her palms sweaty. She squeezed Ash's fingers, and Ash squeezed back. "My name's Ash," he said. "Okay, Ash," she replied. "Let's go." There were no sounds other than their own shuffling footsteps and heavy breathing. No feeling for Ash but the constant fear that he would step on something in his bare feet or walk into something left in the corridor. They moved slowly, and Ash put his right hand out in front of him, waving it up and down in an arc, like the fire safety guy had shown them at school. Isabel's fingers rasped along the wall to the left, sounding like something shuffling beside them, something maybe grinning with a mouth full of needle-like teeth as it waited for just the right moment to get them. "You live here?" Ash tried to think about something else. "And it's an island?" "Yes." "Big or small?" "I guess small, but it takes 2 days to get from one end to the other. There are no roads." "Cooper, out!" "Shh! Cooper, I'm doing work." He's interrupting my video. Oh, where was I? The joys of working at home. It takes 2 days to get from one end to the other. There are no roads. Ash imagined it was as a green island in the middle of a crystal blue sea, covered in thick jungle, with this building smack in the center. And what's this place? The biosphere. It's for special research. Papa is a scientist. Doing what? Did he ever mention something called Kronos? Papa never tells me about what work he is doing. It's secreto. Secret? You mean this place is some kind of secret research? Shh! Ash stopped moving, and his grip tightened. "You hear something?" Isabel whispered. "I thought—" Ash listened again, turning his head and breathing deeply. In that moment, he felt absurd, like an animal sniffing the air and listening for danger. "No, come on." "We came here 6 months ago," Isabel told him, "from San Jose. It was a good job for Papa, good pay." "What about your mom?" Ash couldn't understand why he hadn't thought about it before. You said you have a house. Isn't your mom there? She'll have heard the helicopter and... A gentle click came from somewhere ahead. Terror washed over Ash like an icy breeze. He pressed tight against the wall, pulling Isabel back so she was right beside him. Quiet. Another click was followed by the sound of soft footsteps. A tingling flooded through Ash's body, heightening his senses even farther, making everything numb and alive all at once. Lights sparkled and danced in front of him as if tiny fireworks were flashing in his eyes. The smell of peppermint and new leather flooded his nostrils. Thorn. Ash held his breath as the slightest breeze wafted against his face. Something was just an inch away from them on the other side of the corridor. It couldn't see them, but perhaps it knew they were there, and all it had to do was reach out and it would have them. It would drag them away and do unspeakable things. But then it moved. A creak of shoe leather, a waft of air, another gentle footstep followed by another until it receded into the darkness the way it had come. Ash and Isabel waited in silence, neither of them daring to move until Ash leaned over and made himself speak. We need to get moving. Is he gone? For now. They had no choice other than to keep going, so they set off again, skin prickling in anticipation of what might be creeping up behind them. Ash could hear his blood in his ears, as if the world couldn't be completely silent in the way it could be completely dark. There was the gentle patch of his bare feet and the tap-tap of Isabel's boots, the swoosh of cotton pajamas as Ash waved his hand in front of him up and down, and there was the shh of Isabel's fingers on the wall. Those noises filled his head like they were trying to drive him mad, and he reached up to touch the tag around his neck, to find the strength to bring everything under control. We are close now. Isabel led Ash around the corner into a part of the building he had never seen. They crept to the end of the corridor and eased the door open on silent hinges. A potent smell hit Ash like a blunt instrument, making him reel back and pull against Isabel. What is it? She said. What's wrong? Something, he panted as he tried to rid himself of this terrible smell. Something bad. What? Her voice was tight and high-pitched. What is it? It's death. It's death. I don't know. His chest hitched and everything felt constricted as if he were underwater. Is it him? Isabel's fingers squeezed into Ash's grip. Is it Thorn? No. Ash was beginning to lose control and had to stop himself. He couldn't afford to panic. They were alone and had to cope. What then? What is it? I don't know. Some kind of smell. It's like the smell of a butcher shop. Ash put out his foot, stretching into the darkness, until his foot came into contact with something blocking the corridor. Realizing right away what it was, he lurched in horror, slipping on liquid. He fell flat on his backside, his hand ripping away from Isabel's, feeling as if the air was being crushed out of him. Isabel reached out, feeling across his chest with trembling fingers. She found his arm and followed it down to take his hand. What is it? Her whisper was desperate and breathless. What's there? Ash opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His lungs were tight, his throat narrow. Breathe, she said. Breathe, it's okay. We are here together, remember? Ash nodded and felt his breath return. A body, he managed. I think it's a body. It's your mom, said the voice in his head.